Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Good to see you guys. Just a few of us for now, but we got a few more minutes till it's 4 o'clock, and then we'll get a little lecture in here or review for you guys' upcoming quiz. So yeah, good to see everybody. Hope your week has been going well. And about 6 minutes, and we'll get things underway here. As usual, feel free to say hello or at any point chime in, question or comment. After we're done, you'll be on to your weekend, and it'll be all good. Hey, Megan. Hi, Ryan. Good afternoon, everyone. Hey there, Tyler. Good to see you too. Me? Yep. Awesome. Hey, Jade. Hi, Betsy. Yeah, Tyler, the quiz is on Tuesday, and you're going to be given the test form at around the same time of 4 p.m., just before, and then you're going to be given a window of time to send back your completed answers to me. So we won't have an actual class meeting. You're just going to be using the test form that I deliver through Canvas Titanium, the delivery system. And once you get it, then you're going to just send it back to me, and you're just going to have a specified window of time. So that's how it'll be. Tuesday's a quiz day. Today's review, so I'll get you guys good and prepared for it. And then tomorrow, I'm going to send to the class the answer key for the first homework that you guys did. And starting after that, anybody who wants their score can just send me a little quick message, and I'll return your score or the comments if you want them. So that's it. And what I'm saying to you right now, just in this meeting live, I'm going to send a detailed email tomorrow when I give the answer key, so you'll be fully informed. So not to worry. Just taking little quizzes and stuff during the pandemic, it's all done online, and so I just have to give you the form, provide you a window of time, and then you send me back your answers. This was totally smooth last semester, and I'm sure you can understand this is the only way we can really do it. So yeah, Tuesday we will have that first quiz. Hey, Justin, Bianca, Fernanda, great to see you guys there. About 3 more minutes. Hello. I never really realized that the letter P and O were so close to each other until this typo. I feel like it's happened twice. Maybe not both times with you, but the last time I saw it, I was like, oh no, are these notes getting too confusing? Yeah, I guess I was right about the Heat, huh? So yeah, tonight, game 1. Let's see what's going on. I mean, I was surprised that the Clippers, well, I guess I can't be that surprised. Clippers are cursed, but yeah, kind of a little surprised because they were up 3-1, but typical Clipper stuff. Oh yeah, not to worry, Taya. Good to see you, though. Thank you. Yeah, I think we're going to see in the finals Heat versus Lakers. But honestly, I think the Lakers are going to struggle a little more with Denver than the Clippers, just based on the way Jokic is playing. But could be a cakewalk for them too. They seem to be clicking right now. So we'll just see how it turns out. Hey there. Just about another minute here. How's it going, Simo? Yeah, that's right, Nee. Maybe I will provide a slight additional margin of time, like maybe 90 minutes or something, but basically it's going to be like that. That's correct. Hey, Sebastian. Good afternoon / evening, I guess, kind of in the gray area, but it's still, I guess, late afternoon, early evening, maybe. All right, guys, so it's about 4 right now. Welcome back to class. Thank you guys for your attendance and for your engagement in the course. So basically, today, what I thought I wanted to do is, if you just look at the syllabus, it says today's when we start talking about chapter 3. But I figure it's better to maybe wait on the chapter 3 material until after the quiz that we have on Tuesday, so that we don't introduce too much new information before you guys take the quiz. So what I'm planning for today's meeting is just to go over all the topics again and have a little review session for the quiz, okay? So you can kind of think of this as like your virtual study guide. You can refer back to this video for any items on the quiz that you want to review and prepare for the quiz. So yeah, if that sounds good to you guys, I'm just going to start off going through the list of different concepts that we talked about in our class. And when I get to something, just if any student can help out by trying to supply some type of little information in the chat, and then we'll just go through all the items that way. Okay, so we're going to start at the top. This is going to take us back a little bit in the class to day 1, and I'm hoping that most of these concepts are familiar to us. Certainly there's a lot of us here, 40 or more, so with that many intelligent people, I'm sure that we can figure out the basic nature of each response as we go through these terms. Okay, so the quiz itself is going to have like a set of 15 or 16 questions. 8 in chapter 1. So all the early stuff that we did, talking about argument and basic concepts of logic, and then all the chapter 1 stuff, social psychology experiments, the stages of cognitive development, qualities of a good critical thinker, benefits of being a good critical thinker, barriers to being a good critical thinker. Okay, so at any point, feel free to let me know if you have questions, but I'm just going to go through the topics. Okay, so from, let's say, our first set of questions. These are all chapter 8 and earlier. So quiz topics. Good or / bad critical thinker. All right, so who can think of what is the definition of either of those two? We'll just start at the beginning. So we're reviewing. A good critical thinker is a what? What is a good critical thinker? What is a bad critical thinker? Tell me what you know, what you remember. And let's see. I know it takes a minute to write it, and there's a slight time lag, so I'm just looking at the chat. I know the information, of course, but I'd like to see if you can supply some of that, and then I'll clarify. Eduardo, a person that believes a claim based on good argument and evidence. Good. Pamela, good critical thinker. A person that will not believe a claim unless it's based on good argument. Correct. Someone that will give good arguments when making their claim. Exactly. So let me just bring those two pieces together. This is all accurate. A good critical thinker is a type of person that won't believe a claim unless it's based on good reasons and good arguments. So unless there's some kind of good argument or reason to demonstrate the claim or to justify it, they won't believe it. At the same time, a good critical thinker also is able to provide good arguments and reasons for the claims that they make to other people. Now, a bad critical thinker would be the opposite. And since we're all focused here on the good side of it, let me just help you with the other part. A bad critical thinker is simply a person that will believe things even if they're not based on good argument and evidence. Likewise, the bad critical thinker does not have the ability to justify their claims to others because they don't give good arguments or reasons to back their claims up. So it's all about having arguments and evidence before you believe something or when you present a claim to other people. So sounds like you guys have it. I see a lot of you guys giving the right kind of basic information there. So we're just going to move on to the next. We'll just keep going quickly and see if we can get as much of this as possible. Okay, so then next up, what is an argument? In the logical sense of the term, argument. What do you think is that? What is an argument? In the sense defined in a logic course, in that kind of academic context. An argument, it's a set of things. What are they? And how many? And what are the parts? Let's just go over that. So Denise, you say a statement with a conclusion backed with at least one premise. Good. I would only edit that this one slight way because there's multiple statements in the argument. So I would say it is a set of statements. It's a set of statements that has one conclusion backed by at least one premise. That's good. You could also put it slightly differently. You can say it's a set of two or more sentences where one of those sentences is the conclusion and all the other ones are premises. Exactly. So good, Celestial. Now, I also have a question that sort of piggybacks off of that. Tell me about the different parts of the argument. What are the parts? What are their names, and what is their role? So let's see what you come up with. The parts of an argument have already been referred to here, but let's just now focus on them one more time. Conclusion and premises, correct, Angela? Now, how many conclusions are there in an argument? And what is the whole function of the conclusion? What is the conclusion of the argument? So there's, I think we've said it, there's one conclusion. But what is its overall role in the argument? Let's just see if we could say that one time. The conclusion is, in other words, the what of the argument. So, Jade, okay, you say conclusion defends a claim, premises support a claim. Nee, you say conclusion would be the claim, and premises would be the evidence or reasons to the claim. Exactly, okay, good. So Nee, that's basically right information. The conclusion of the argument is the statement that you are trying to claim or to prove to be true, okay? Jade, it's not exactly correct to say that the conclusion defends the claim because the conclusion just is the claim, and the defense is coming from the premises. So yes, the conclusion of the argument is the statement that you're trying to make a case for, the statement that you're trying to prove or show to be true. And the premises, no, don't worry, Jade, that's fine. But then the premises are just the evidence, the reasons that give some backing, some support, some evidence for the conclusion. Okay, and within every argument, there has to be at a minimum one premise and exactly one conclusion. But there could be more than one premise. Okay, cool. So I'm looking at the next thing in my little review sheet here. Tell me then about this word, the word truth. What's the definition of that term? If a statement is true, what does this mean? So we're talking now about the term or the concept of truth. What does that involve? For a sentence to be a true one, what does that take? Truth is something real. Good. That's one way to put it, yes. Pamela, you're saying what a sentence says matches the facts of reality. That's very good, yeah. And same Eduardo. So a true sentence is just a sentence that mirrors what is happening. If I'm telling you that I'm wearing a black polo shirt, that's true. That's a true statement. If I tell you that I'm wearing a neon yellow jacket, that's not true. At least it's not true right now. I don't have one. So anyway, that's a false statement. I could say it, but I would be making a false claim. So critical thinkers and just everyday people, you'd hope, would just want to believe the things that are true, because when you have false beliefs, when you think some statement is true but it's not, that means that you're getting the facts of the world wrong and you're misinformed. So you want to have a true appreciation of reality. Truth is connected to facts. So sentences can be true or false, and they are true if they match to the world and what is happening in it. If I told you that the Eiffel Tower is in Paris, that's true. And if I told you that it's in Ohio, that's false. So, one sentence that I just said corresponds to the real facts, and the other one doesn't. Okay, now, next up, I want to ask you about belief. What is it to have a belief then? Now this just rolls straight off of the truth. They're connected in a way. So what is it when one has a belief? What's a belief? A belief is just when, tell me, let's see. When a person thinks a sentence is true, exactly. So do you believe that I'm wearing glasses? You should, because you could just see them, I think, right? So, the things that you can see, you believe. Sometimes the things that you just hear from other people, you believe. Sometimes just things that you read written as reports, you believe that they're true claims. There's many ways to come about whatever you believe, but your beliefs are what you think is true. Okay, so some people can divide on their beliefs. Like one person could say, I believe that JFK was assassinated by the CIA, and another person could say, I don't believe that. One person could say, I believe that the moon landing was fake. Another person could say, no, I think it was true. So beliefs, people can have differences of opinion about their beliefs, but there's still just one set of facts. So if two people have opposite beliefs, they can't both be correct. Anyway, Sebastian, it's not a truth. It's to think that it's true. Okay, so truth is truth, but belief is when you think something's true. You can have a false belief. Like, a person could believe in Santa Claus like little kids do, right? But there's no such real person out there delivering the gifts. So like beliefs could be false, but the person who has the belief thinks it's true. Does that make sense to you? I hope so. The replica over in Nevada, yeah, that's why I chose Ohio. Because if I said, and it's not in Nevada, then you might have pointed out the stuff that's going on over in Vegas. They have those big replicas. But yeah, I've seen that. Okay, so we covered belief then. Sorry, oops, Alex. I'm just kidding. I meant Satan. Anyway, yeah, so next up, some conclusion indicator words. No problem. Okay. When I turn around, maybe you're already going to have some of them written in the chat. Who knows? But maybe not. Let's see. Conclusion indicator words. Like, what are some of those? There's a bundle of them. Therefore, so, those are definitely two of the big ones. There's also consequently, yeah. Main ones out there. There's a few more. Thus, hence, exactly, those are very good too. It follows, ergo. Then, no, we're going to not use then actually, Denise, because then is reserved for the consequent of a conditional, of a hypothetical. But yeah, everything else works out here. It follows, consequently, ergo, thus, hence, therefore, so. These are all fine examples of conclusion indicator words. Okay, now, since I've filled the board with topics for now, I'm going to just clear the board and start at the top again. We're just going through the same list. But the next topic or term is going to be premise indicator words. So let's see if we can figure out a few of those. Okay, so what do we have on this topic? Premise indicator words. Yeah, given that would be one. Given that all men are mortal, and because Michael Jordan is a man, therefore he's mortal. Since is another one. Okay, good. So we've got given that, because, since, as, due to the fact that. Yep, those are all good. I feel like back in the 19th century, like Victorian English literature, there was sometimes people would use the word for, like, I'm sad for my love has left me. So in that case, being sad is the conclusion, and what follows the word for is a statement of the reason, but not as common, I guess, anymore. Yeah, so those are all good. So you guys have a fair range there. Because, since, due to the fact that, given that, assuming, that's all good. Okay. So let's see, next what I've got is, so now we're going to talk about the different types of sentences, okay? I just want you to tell me, like, what is an imperative? What kind of statement or sentence, not statement, what kind of sentence is an imperative? It's a fancier way of saying that it's a what type of sentence? A command, exactly. So if I say, write down an imperative, is that an imperative? It is. Just kind of trying to be funny, but yeah, it's a little meta example. It's like commanding you to give a command. But yeah, so imperatives are commands. Take out the trash, write this down, close your books, get on the ground, put your hands behind your head. So these are all imperatives, right? Sometimes we have to use these just to negotiate the affairs of everyday life, and sometimes we use them in special contexts and social settings. So they're important to language, but that's not, of course, the only type of sentence. So next I'll ask you about the interrogatives. What kind of sentence is that? An interrogative is who knows this? Yeah, it's a question, exactly. So even if I say, or this sentence is an interrogative. What's an interrogative? It's an interrogative because it's asking a question. It's asking a question about what type of sentence an interrogative is. But that's, again, maybe a little too funny. So, any question. Where's the bathroom? What is your name? What's your favorite color? How much does this cost? Where did you go to high school? Where were you born? Those are all interrogative sentences. In other words, they're questions. So it's easy enough to remember them. They're just any sentence that ends with a question mark. Okay. Also, what is an assertoric sentence? An assertoric sentence is just, what do you take a moment to recall, but basically this is the most widespread type of sentence, not question, most widespread type of sentence, and it's the only kind that's really used in logic. So yeah, it's a statement that has a truth value. It's a statement that is either true or false. So like telling you that I'm 7 feet tall is an assertion. It's just a false one. Telling you that I'm 5'10", I guess, is a true assertion. Maybe I'm a little off. Maybe I'm 5'9.5". But one way or the other, it's roughly that height. So a sentence that has a truth value, as they call it, as either true or false, that's an assertion. And those are fundamental because those are the only type of sentences on this list that are used in the statement of an argument as premises or as conclusions. Okay, so it could be anything. The moon is orbiting planet Earth. America has a bigger population than France. So, these are just different assertoric sentences. Okay, now I know that when I believe, presented this to you, I also talked about exclamations, but like I figure they're just kind of a little too weird. I'm not going to talk about them on the quiz, so you don't have to worry about that. But just for your memory anyway, an exclamation is just like a momentary expression of a person's feeling or psychological state, and a lot of times these are sentences that end with exclamation point, and oftentimes they don't even have a full grammatical structure. They're just a couple words or even just one word, like wow, whoa, boo, yay, and so forth. Okay. All right, now next, very important, tell me, what is a deductively valid argument? So what does it mean for an argument to be deductively valid? For an argument to be deductively valid, this means that, and give you a hint, the word if and then is in the correct definition here. So a deductively valid argument is an argument where what? And the terms if and then should be somewhere in this answer. So good. If the premises are all true, then the conclusion has to be true also. Exactly, Eduardo. So if it's deductively valid, it means that assuming the premises are true, they might not really be, but like assuming they're true, then the conclusion would have to be true as well. Okay, now Taya, that's a little not totally accurate. You can come to a conclusion that the statements are true. You can have a valid argument where none of the statements are true. Like all men have traveled to Mars, and since Dr. Vulich is a man, therefore Dr. Vulich has traveled to Mars. That's a valid argument, but of course the first premise is false and the conclusion is false. So validity is not so much about whether they're actually true statements, but whether the truth of the conclusion would be guaranteed on the assumption hypothetically of the truth of the premises. Okay, so you have to ask this question. Suppose the premises were true. Whatever they say, suppose they were true. Would that imply the conclusion or not? And if it would, if it's the type of set of premises where if they're true, the conclusion also has to be, then that's deductively valid. It's invalid if it is possible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false. If that's even possible, then it's invalid. Okay. Now, let's see. Next up, let's give a definition of what is a sound argument. Okay, wait, sorry, let me get your statement here, Taya. Wouldn't that make it not sound, though? Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, you can have a valid argument that is not sound. Let's just pause for a moment and let's think about that. You can have a valid argument. It could still be valid even when it's not sound. So not every valid argument is sound. Like the one that I just gave you about everyone's been to Mars, that's not sound. You're right. But validity and soundness are two different things. Every sound argument is valid, but not every valid argument is sound. Okay, because to be sound, it has to be valid plus the premises are really true in the real world. Okay, so you may be confusing soundness with validity, I think, but that's fine because now we're going to talk about soundness. So now I guess I kind of spoiled the fun by telling you a little bit about it, but who can remember? What is soundness again? In the chat, we can have it there. If it's a sound argument, definition means what? Yeah, just let me know. The definition of a sound argument, a deductively sound argument. Okay, so it is a valid argument where the premises are all true. Exactly. Well, you say both, Nicosimo, but it's you should just say all, because sometimes there's only one premise and sometimes there's three. So both would only be appropriate in a case where the argument has got two premises. And a lot of times, yeah, they do have two. But there can also be more than two or less. Thanks. That's right. Okay. Yeah, so it is a valid argument where the premises are true. So validity is just obtained when the statement below follows from the statements above. But soundness obtains when you've got that, plus those statements above the line are actually facts, like real facts. Okay? So here's the next thing I want to ask. Give me an example. Okay, so I'm going to erase this list. Go to the next bundle of stuff here. So example of an argument that is valid but not sound. Okay, so to put it in the chat, let's do it this way. Just because you can't like provide standard form, right? Since by the time you hit return, you're going to already just have the one sentence there. So you can number them. Like you can number the premises in one little text blurb. So like number 1 dot and then write the first premise, number 2 dot and then the second premise, and then then you can sort of have the conclusion follow. I don't know, the letter C with a colon or whatever. So yeah, let's see who can come up with one such example. So what it says is, you're trying to give me an example of an argument that is valid, but it's not actually sound. Maybe don't use the exact same one I just gave so that it can show that the wheels are turning in your own mind. So what do you think could be a fair example like that? Maybe we'll get a couple to think about here. Okay, so Pamela, you're putting this one in the chat. Every woman knows how to cook. Pearl is a woman. Therefore, Pearl knows how to cook. Okay, good. And the reason this is not sound is, I guess, because of premise 1, right? Because it says every woman knows how to cook, which, not every single woman knows how to cook, not every single man, not every single person knows how to cook, even if maybe a lot, maybe some do. Okay, good. So you have a valid argument. That conclusion logically follows from the premises. If the premises were true, that conclusion has to be true. But of course, it's unsound because of premise 1. So exactly. Me. All men are 6 feet tall. My dad is a man, and therefore my dad is 6 feet tall. Perfect. Yeah, because any argument that starts with a statement that says all of a certain category have some attribute, but it's not really true that they all have that attribute, would be a good way to start an example like this. Like, all men can fly. There you have it, Sarah. Humans can fly. Dr. Vulich is a human, and therefore he can fly. Sure, yeah, if all humans can fly, and if I'm a human, then that does follow from those two premises. But again, information about humans flying is clearly false, so it's unsound. All right, good. So that's a couple of solid examples. Just that's the format of type of answer you would want to give. Now let's go over what is, give me the example of a sound argument. Okay, so let's see what comes up from that. Let's see what you have for me now. So again, I need an argument, but this time make it be a sound one. So it's valid, and on top of that, it's sound. So let's see what we have for this. Yeah. I'm just chilling for a minute, waiting for your example to come back. Something sound. An argument that's sound. Okay, so starting with bats are mammals. True. One of the rare cases of a mammal that flies. Is there another one? I can't even think if there's another one that flies. That's fine, but I see your first premise. Where would you go from there? I feel like it's going to be hard to go. I mean, yeah, you might be trying to think of like the name of an actual bat or something, but you know, we don't know the individual identities of specific bats. So like, I'm sure like one way you could have gone from there is John is a bat, so John's a mammal. Okay, no, here you got something. Bats are mammals. Aaron, you're stepping in to give another premise, right? All mammals eat, or maybe that's your first premise. But these two things could be combined, and that could be the premises of a valid argument that's sound. But let's see what's going to be put on this chat next. I'm letting you guys work it over. All mammals eat. Okay, good. So like Aaron, you kind of came in and completed the argument which Denise started with that premise that says bats are mammals. Okay, so like an argument like this, bats are mammals, and all mammals eat. Now, you could have said something a little more, I'm not trying to be picky, but you could have said something a little more interesting about mammals, because all mammals eat, fair enough, but like everything eats. You could have said mammals give live birth, or you know, mammals have warm blood, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so all mammals eat, therefore bats eat. Okay, that would be valid and it's sound. Celestial, let's see what you have there. It says plants do photosynthesis. Like, it's probably best though to say all. To be specific, that you don't just mean some of them do it, right? So you mean all, then say all. All plants do photosynthesis, but then again, that's not necessarily true either. Are there some? There's like are there like aquatic plants or something that don't? But I just might be wrong on that. So let's just say it's true. Plants, all plants do photosynthesis. Cacti are plants, and therefore cacti do photosynthesis. I have no reason to doubt that those are two true premises. But being that I'm not a scientist or biologist, is it true, everybody? Can anyone like quickly research this? Do all plants do photosynthesis? Because that's what makes a difference here as to whether this is actually sound or not. I might not be that picky in a real case. But to be fair, if it's sound, it's got to be true. Like, those premises have to really be actually factually true in the real world. And I'm just like not so up on the facts about plants and photosynthesis, but I know that as a general matter, any ones that have like leaves and stuff do. It is true. Taya, you say aquatic plants do not. Well, I'm getting two different answers now. What's the fact? Anybody has a source? It's not that important. But but I'm making a point though that is relevant though to an answer you would give here. Even algae, okay. Yeah, but the Venus flytraps have like foliage and stuff, and I think they still have to convert light into energy. Whatever. This is now getting into a field that's not really philosophy, but yeah, like just if you want to avoid any kind of controversies, make it something that's evidently obvious. But look, if I have to do research on it and I find out it's true, that's fine too. Okay, yeah, so Botany 101, thanks. All right, but yeah, like all human beings had two parents. Albert Einstein was a human being, therefore he had two parents. Everywhere inside of Fullerton is inside of California. Well, I'm not in Fullerton right now, so let me give you my case. Everywhere inside of Long Beach is inside of California. I'm in Long Beach, therefore I'm in California. These are just all different, valid and sound arguments. Okay, so thanks for the help and the review there. So we're going to move on to the next. Definition and example of inductively strong argument. Okay. So now I'm asking about the other kind of argument in logical reasoning, inductively strong argument. What's the definition of an inductively strong argument, and what could be an example of one? So let's start with the definition. To be an inductively strong argument, what does the argument have to be? It has to be one where if something, then something. So what's the way of filling in that if-then? You say lotus does not require photosynthesis, Ryan. Ooh. So maybe it's not actually sound. Beware. Don't be too loose with the facts. Okay. So yeah, what's next? If all the premises are true, the conclusion is likely to be true. That's exactly right, Pamela. That's what it means when it's inductively strong. Induction is about a likely to be true conclusion given the premises. Deduction, validity, is when the conclusion it must be true given the truth of the premises. Okay, so with induction we are led to a conclusion that's probably true based on those premises, but it can't be absolutely guaranteed. So what could be an example then of that type of inductively strong argument? So what you're looking for is an example where the premises give good reasons to believe the conclusion, but it's not absolutely airtight. There's some possibility that the conclusion might not happen despite those true premises. So what could be like an example of that? Inductively strong. What could that be? Inductively strong. Where are you guys at? I feel like these are a little easier. In the conclusion, you just have to say some things in the premises that make it more than likely than not. Okay, so Pamela, you're saying my dad has been driving for many years without getting in a car accident. That's a good kind of example. And then therefore, my dad will not get in an accident when he goes to work today. That's fine, that's good. Let me say, you can make it even a little more clear by like stating the number of years. You say many, which sounds fine. But if you told me like, oh, he's been driving for 20 years with no accidents on his record, and today he's gonna go to work, therefore he won't get in an accident on the way to work. That would be good, that's fine. But even as it is stated, that's a good example. Taya, the sun has risen every day for the past 4 billion years. Premise. Conclusion, therefore the sun will rise tomorrow. Good, that's like a classic example that's always used in like a textbook example. Because the sun, we do believe it will come up tomorrow, of course, because it seems like that's been happening for as long as there's been history in the world, but it can't be guaranteed. Okay, parents with blue eyes normally have children with blue eyes. You don't have blue eyes, therefore those aren't your parents. Wait, let me think. Well, I don't know enough of the context, because you're saying in the premises you don't have blue eyes, but you didn't say that your parents have blue eyes. You just said the general statement that parents in general with blue eyes normally have children with blue eyes. So I think to make it a little clearer, you'd have to give a description of the argument like follows. When the parents have blue eyes, 90 times out of 100, some percentage, the children have blue eyes too. My parent, or the people who raised me, have blue eyes, because you can't call them parents, I guess. But I don't have blue eyes, and then therefore you could argue those are not my parents, right? Now, I guess that's something that's probable, But to be honest with you, Aaron, it's an odd selection because you know how the genetics works. The blue eyes are genetically recessive. So even having two parents with blue eyes, I mean, that would make it much likelier. But if they had any genes in their parents or in their family genetic line with darker eyes, then that dominant gene could reappear, of course, in this new generation of child. If you had said parents who have darker eyes usually have children with darker eyes, that's even likelier, I believe, because it's a dominant gene, whereas the light color eye is recessive. So, you know, I'm just trying to be a little picky about the example, but I totally understand what you mean. Like, if the two parents had blue eyes, well, we can't call them parents in your given example. So there's two people with blue eyes who raised me. People with blue eyes usually have kids with blue eyes. I don't have blue eyes, therefore they're not my parents, but it's usually instead of always. Okay, here we go, knee. Most of my family members are short people. I'm the tallest one in my family, therefore I'm not related to my family members. Kind of okay, yeah, but like Aaron and knee, both of these examples I kind of want to set to the side because it's a little weird when we're talking about how likely it is that the genes are going to propagate to display a specific phenotypic trait. I think something where there's more of a track record that can be easily pointed to would be like a better example. So like the stuff about the sun or like the stuff about a person's driving record. I don't know. I've never been shot in my life, so probably today it won't happen either. I don't know. I've never. I mean, I've never gotten the coronavirus yet. I guess maybe I have. I actually don't know. I've not been tested, but I've never had any symptoms. So maybe that's not a good example either. I'd have to have a way of knowing that it hadn't happened. Anything where there's a long-established pattern that is presumed to continue is the basis for a good inductively strong argument. We've had elections every 4 years since 1776, since the founding of the United States. And this is the 4th year in the cycle. So therefore, we'll have an election this year, you know. Now, could that possibly not happen? I mean, people have said it's possible, so who knows? Maybe there could be a full breakdown of the system. But since there's a long past history, we'd suppose that it would continue. Tyler, most Asians have dark hair. I'm Asian, therefore I have dark hair. Yeah, sure. Most Asians have dark hair is one premise that you start the argument with. I guess that's fine. Yeah, sometimes I feel like saying most in a way begs the question because what's supposed to be established by the conclusion is that it's likely to happen most of the time. But I guess for you to be more precise about this man has dark hair and he's an Asian, this man has dark hair and he's an Asian, and you just enumerate it, that would take too long. So that's fair. Okay, I think you guys understand the basic idea of inductively strong arguments, and you've given some good examples. So let's go on to the next thing. A disjunctive syllogism. Okay, so now we're going to talk about those forms of deductively valid argument. Disjunctive syllogism, just tell me the form that it has, or give an example of it, I guess. And then we'll be able to talk about that. So there are different forms of deductively valid argument. One of them is called disjunctive syllogism. It's also sometimes called argument from elimination. So I'm just going to remind you of that also. How does that one go? The argument from elimination, the disjunctive syllogism. So you could just put in that chat the basic format or give an example. It's the either or kind, right? Well, that's only the most basic thing you can say about it. I mean, it involves an either or sentence, but it's an argument, so it has to have more than one statement. So Natalie, you're saying it's this type of form, either A or B, not A. So therefore B, exactly, right, correct. The first premise that you put there is a disjunction, which says either A or B. The second premise that you give eliminates one of the disjuncts. In this case, you eliminated A. So the conclusion that results is the other disjunct from the first premise, namely B. Can someone give an actual one example that's not just a formal structure, but using sentences of English? So you have Tyler, the ice cream flavor is either vanilla or strawberry. Next premise, the ice cream flavor is not vanilla. Therefore, the flavor is strawberry. Okay, good, Tyler, yeah. It's a bit unnatural in a way because is it mystery ice cream? Like someone's like, surprise, open this, and there's two possibilities. We don't know which one it is, but this ice cream shop only has two flavors. Yeah, no, but fine, that's good. Anybody else? Just to throw one more out there. Yeah, no, that's good. But that's the right kind of like format, genre of example to provide. Something or something else, but not the thing, so the something else. So like what else can you guys have? Maybe one more, and then we can move on real fast. Okay, either I eat clam chowder or potato soup. There's no more clam chowder, so I'll eat potato soup. Good. Okay, I'm either going to get pizza or tacos for lunch, Eden, and I think we know where that one goes, that you're not going to get, say, pizza, and therefore you will get the tacos. Pamela, I'm either going to wear a dress or a t-shirt. My sister's using the dress, and therefore I'm going to wear the t-shirt. Good. Yeah, no, I see, Eden, that you hit enter before you're finished, but that's okay. Taya, I gave my son an option to wear a shirt or a onesie. He didn't choose the onesie, so the son chose to wear the shirt. Good all around. Let me just add a few little clarifications too. You could also negate the other disjunct. It could be B that is eliminated on the second premise, and that would lead to the conclusion of A. So like if, for example, I'm either going to wear a dress or a t-shirt, but my t-shirt, I spilled something on it, so therefore I'm going to wear the dress. That could also work out. But one thing that you cannot do, and let's just make sure everyone knows this, it can't be where you affirm one of the disjuncts and then conclude with the denial of the other one. So it can't be like, I'm going to either have pizza or tacos for lunch. I'm eating pizza, so I didn't get tacos. That's not correct. It has to be specifically that there's an elimination on the second premise, hence the name here. And then we conclude with an affirmative disjunct on the bottom. Okay? So good. From there, then, we can go and talk about the modus ponens type of argument. So I'm going to just write the name up here, and you guys, someone give me an example and tell me about the structure of that. Modus ponens, also known as, aka, affirming the antecedent. Okay, so what do we have? What can we think of, come up with on this? Modus ponens. So it's one of the three family members of the hypothetical syllogism family. It's the first one that we talked about. So how do those go? Modus ponens arguments. Modus ponens. If A, then B, first premise. Second premise, A, conclusion, therefore B. Exactly, Tyler. Christian, you give this example. If I win the lottery, I'll buy a house. I won the lottery. And therefore, you have to put that conclusion in there too, Christian. But therefore, I'm going to buy a house. Good. Sebastian, saying you're in Long Beach. Nice. That's fitting discussion there. But okay, Ryan, if I water the plant, it will grow. I water the plant, and therefore it grew. Great, perfect. Pamela, if I sleep early, I won't be exhausted. I slept early, so I'm not exhausted. That's good. Does that sound? Anyway, cool. Then next, if I do well in the test, I'll reward myself. I do well in the test, and of course, Eduardo, the conclusion then would be I reward myself. Exactly, yeah. Yes, Sarah, that's true. When we have modus ponens, the second premise affirms the if clause of the antecedent. That's exactly right. Denise, if I clean my room, my mom will be happy. I clean my room, and therefore my mom is happy. All right, good all around. That's perfect. Now, the most common error with modus ponens is when people on the second premise affirm the wrong part. Like when people affirm the consequent, that's a fallacy. So you have to make sure that the order is strictly adhered to. It's like if A, then B. Below that is the letter A, or the sentence which stands for A, and then the conclusion is the consequent, in other words, B, or the sentence that stands for B. But it can't be if A, then B, B, therefore A. It's just logically fallacious. Okay, good. So those are fine examples. Also, modus tollens. Now I need to hear about the modus tollens argument. Modus tollens is also known by the other name of denying the consequent. Okay, so what do you think? Modus tollens. Let's see what we have for that. So far, some good examples. Just a couple more. on this material. Denying the consequent. Okay, so yeah, Tyler, that's the overall format. Yes, correct. If A, then B, but not B. So therefore not A. Aaron, if I drink coffee, I will be up at night. I was not up at night, and therefore I did not drink coffee. Fair enough. That's a good example, because coffee would have led the person, you presumably, to stay up late, and you didn't stay up late, so you must not have been on the coffee on the caffeine. Okay, Taya, if I water the plant, it will grow. It didn't grow, so therefore I didn't water it. Exactly. If you did water, it would have grown, but it didn't grow, so that must mean that the action of watering it did not happen. Good. Denies the consequent then clause. So here's, Sarah, your example. If I take a nap, then I'll get more sleep. I didn't get more sleep, and so I didn't take a nap. Good. Pamela, if I pass the driving test, then I drove well. I didn't drive well, and therefore I didn't pass the driving test. Good. Eduardo, if you go out to eat, you spend money. You didn't spend any money, so you didn't go out to eat. That's exactly the right kind of example. If I eat, then I'll be full. Not full. Therefore, I didn't eat. Don't you ever just take a snack, though? Just like a little nibble of something, just kind of get you through a few hours. Anyway, fair enough. I'm kind of like that, too. I have like a couple of big meals a day. I just kind of go off, and then, when I have free time, I'll snack. But for the most part, yeah, I just eat a couple of really big meals. Okay, thanks, guys. So that's modus tollens. Now, with modus tollens, the most basic mistake people make is like to deny the wrong part of the conditional. So like people who say if A then B, not A, therefore not B, that's incorrect. The second premise is denying the consequent, the part that's on the right hand of the word then. So make sure to keep that straight if you provide an example on this, if it's asked on the quiz, okay? So now there's one more form of deductively valid argument, and that's the chain argument. So let's just see if we can generate an example of that chain argument. How does that one go? The chain argument. Wait for it. I know it's coming soon. Chain argument. What do we have on this chain argument stuff? Oh, okay, good, Pamela. I see you there. So if A, then B, first premise. Second premise, if B, then C. And then the conclusion follows, which is that therefore, if A, then C. Exactly. So Taya, you're giving this example. If I go to work, then I will get paid. Premise one. Premise two. If I get paid, then I can pay my bills. Okay, so conclusion. If I go to work, then I can pay my bills. That's fine, and that's a good example. If I pass my exam, then I will graduate. If I graduate, then I will get a job. So if I pass my exam, then I'll get a job. Here, Aaron, you have something kind of like that. If I study, I'll get good grades. If I get good grades, my parents will love me. So therefore, if I study, my parents will love me. Ouch. I mean, not really, but just to be funny. I hope the love is unconditional, my friend Aaron, but I'm sure it is. Okay, so yeah, good examples, guys. Chain argument. Now, the most basic mistake people make with the chain argument is that they misstate the conclusion. The conclusion has to be a conditional. It has to say if then. And the two pieces of that if then are taken from the first premise and its antecedent and the last premise and its consequent. Let me look at me. You have this. If I improve my running time, then I will make it to championships. If I make it to championships, then I'll be the best runner. And therefore, if I improve my running time, then I'll be the best runner. Yeah. I mean, the order that you could put the things in could be, I guess, reorganized, like maybe in my mind. Like I would think that if I improve my running time, then I'll be the best runner. And if I'm the best runner, then I'll make it to the championship. But, that's just splitting hairs, and that's not really a problem. So that's good. Yeah, running, man. I've been really waiting for the skies to clear up, and I think today, at least here in Long Beach, there's a little bit better air quality, so I'll be able to get in a little something on my workout routine. I had to take 3 days off, which I don't like. Okay, guys, good. So chain argument. Now Now, last thing about Chapter 8 stuff, before I go over the Chapter 1 material, what's the standard form of an argument? And by the way, you have to make sure that when this quiz is being taken, that you write the argument examples in the standard form. I know here in this chat you can't do it, or at least you cannot easily do it, but I want you to make sure that you do that when you're actually taking the real quiz or test. So what's the standard form that an argument is supposed to be presented in visually, like the order and the way that it looks on the page? Okay, Tyler, you're just writing the number 1. There's not enough to say, though. I mean, what else? Like, maybe you need to say in a more fulsome way what this is. So conclusion at the bottom, and the premises are listed above it. Exactly. Yeah, so Taya, that's kind of how you put it. 1, 2 line conclusion. But the thing is, let me be clear, there could be more than 2 premises. Or in some cases, there could just be 1. So it's not merely that there's always 2 premises. It's just that however many premises there are, they're listed. And then there's a horizontal line that separates them from the conclusion, which is at the bottom. Okay, so Nee, that's what you're saying. You have to list the premises with numbers, have a horizontal line that separates the premises and conclusion, and then the conclusion is below. Exactly. So you can't just write it like you're just writing a text message, like with no spacing between the different sentences, or without any horizontal line that shows that there's a conclusion at the bottom. So just make sure you adhere to that format. Like, if I miss the bus, then I'll be late for work. So, like, I'm writing it in standard form, just to give you a random example. So then let's suppose the argument continues. I missed the bus. What will be the conclusion of this one? I think it's pretty straightforward. This argument, the conclusion is just the statement that what? I'm late to work, or I was late to work. By the way, what kind of argument is that? Like the type? It's modus ponens, good. Okay, so this is a modus ponens argument, and this is a standard form. Notice that the first premise is divided from the second premise by this listed numbering and listing. So like it would be incorrect if 2 was on the same like continuous horizontal ledger as 1. So if I just did this, like that's wrong. When you're done with one premise, return key, new line, new number, and on to the next in the same below which the conclusion is written. Okay, perfect. So now, that's all the stuff from Chapter 8 and the intro section of the class. So that's everything about just fundamental concepts of logic and argument. Now after that, there's some stuff that is from the more recent chapter, Chapter 1. And yeah, there's about 10 or 11 items there, or maybe actually a few more because some of them are condensed. So let me ask you, what's the Milgram study? One of these topics is Milgram. I know that you'll give, if I ask about it on the quiz, a more detailed answer, but right now you can just give me the briefest blurb. Milgram is which one? It's a famous social psychology study. It sheds light on the importance of being a good critical thinker. What basically was the nature of this one? This was the one that had what going on? Yes, it's on authority and obedience, and it had to do with the shock generator that the teacher was supposed to give to the learner. By the way, I sent to everybody here some videos of those classic experiments. So, go ahead and try to watch some of that if you have time this weekend, and that'll definitely help you remember it better. I've noticed that if a student's never watched the videos, they can just mix up the names. Who's Milgram? Who's Zimbardo? I know one is about his prison and one's about shocks, and then they describe the wrong experiment, giving the other name. Having seen the experiments and actually watched it, it makes it a little more real and more memorable. So that could help you a little bit. As the fake shocks one was Milgram. Basically, the subjects to the study were divided into the 2 roles, teacher and learner. The teacher was told, shock the learner when they get a memorization question wrong. Every time they get another one wrong, keep giving a more intense shock. And it was rigged. Basically, there was no real shocks, and the learner was in on it, but the teacher didn't know that. And as the protests became more extreme and the person was complaining, that they might die and that they refuse to continue. What we're looking at is how far is this obedient teacher person going to go following the directions of Mr. Milgram. Yeah, this was in Yale University, 1960 to 1963. We wanted to learn about the effect of authority on obedience in light of the horrors of, World War II, Nazi Germany, and all of that. And it was a little disappointing because like 2/3 of the people did give all the shocks. So that's like the kind of results. We found out that people are willing to be quite obedient when they're given even like horrific and questionable, immoral instruction from even this very weak authority figure, just a person in a lab coat in an institutional setting. So good critical thinkers that refused, the healthy minority or so of about 1/3, they were the type of people that started giving reasons and offering realistic arguments as to why they could not in good conscience continue, despite the experimenter saying, but you have to, the experiment requires it. If you watch the video, it's quite eye-opening. It's more interesting to see the video, I think, than to just hear the lecture about it. So check the clips out. Now, there's also Zimbardo. Basically, Zimbardo was the study of the other one. Which one was that? It's very famous. There's a movie made about it not long ago. The Stanford Prison Experiment, exactly, yeah. So in 1971, at Stanford University here in California, there was a psychology department at Stanford, and the researcher Philip Zimbardo wanted to see how people will respond when they're put in a situation where some people have authority and control and other people are powerless, and in which you give very weak guidelines to the people who wield the authority. It was supposed to go for 2 weeks. It had to be shut down after only 6 days because the subjects were getting abused and harmed, psychologically traumatized, sexually humiliated. And so it told us something, that people actually do have a tendency to behave badly when they've been given a grant of authority and some social support for what they're doing, or at least the presumption that they have official support for it. So good critical thinkers, we would hope, would do better than that. And in general, that's part of the value of this class too. Okay, so more questions. 3 stages of cognitive development. Yeah, it was worse when the guards thought the cameras were off. And there's a lot of interesting documentary footage of that. I shared those videos for you guys too. One is like the longer documentary that's about 45 minutes. And then there's a short one that's about 13 minutes where they speak to Mr. Zimbardo a little closer to the current day in the earlier 2000s after the whole Abu Ghraib prison scandal. I don't know if you guys know about that, but there was this horrific event in which U.S. soldiers that were staffing a converted prison that we were housing detainees at in Iraq, and was abusing them and stacking people's naked bodies up and making them do all kinds of horrible things. So Zimbardo talks about that as like a real world connection to the kind of things that can actually happen based on the findings of his research. Okay, so that's Zimbardo, the Stanford Prison Experiment. Now, 3 stages of cognitive development. Okay, like what are those stages? There's 3 words mentioned in the book on that. 3 stages of cognitive development. We've got what, and what. Yes. Okay, good, Taya. Dualism, relativism, and commitment. I was referencing the Abu Ghraib prison scandal, Eduardo. Yeah, and some of those soldiers were prosecuted and did have to serve a prison term for the abuse. But yeah, dualism, relativism, and commitment. So first of all, dualism is the first part of a person's intellectual cognitive development. Cognitive development overall is the lifelong process of acquiring intelligence and problem-solving ability. The dualist part is where you're starting off in life, and basically you think that all the answers are out there, truth is just all black and white, there's no gray area, and you think that authority figures hold the answers to everything, so all you got to do is just listen to them and not think for yourself. The second phase is relativism. That's where you think that truth is all just personal opinion, and since there is no real objective truth, we should just look at all these opinions as being equal and not judge any of them. But the third and the highest level is commitment, where you actually come to your own committed beliefs and opinions based on evidence and your reason. At that point, you believe there actually is objective truth that you can discover on your own through your power of judgment and the evidence. So unlike the dualist, you believe that you can figure things out and not just other people. And unlike the relativist, you don't just believe that there's no objective truth. So that's the highest level. Okay, so those are 3 stages of cognitive development. Now, qualities of a good critical thinker, there's a bundle of those. Analytical skills. Okay, so I'm talking to you now about qualities of a good critical thinker. So analytical skills, that's the ability to provide logical support for your beliefs instead of having opinions that are based on nothing. Effective communication, that's the ability to speak, write, and listen well, and also having knowledge of other communication styles. So a cluster of abilities involving communication, speaking, writing, listening carefully, and also knowing how to switch up your communication style in different situations. Inquiry skills, knowing how to gather, evaluate, and compile evidence for research purposes. Flexibility, that is being able to change your mind or plans, and also being open-minded to alternative ideas, okay? Instead of just stubbornly refusing to reconsider anything or just doubling down on a failed course of action or plan. To have that flexibility means that you're willing to go in a different direction when the circumstances dictate that that has to happen, and that you're also willing to take on the opinions of people with whom maybe you don't agree with, at least at first. Okay, so open-minded person is flexible. Open-minded skepticism is another of these qualities. So that has these 2 elements. Number 1, the open-minded part. So you're willing to hear all the different arguments, but the skeptical part is that you would not believe anything unless there was some kind of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So the open-minded skeptic won't believe things unless it can somehow be proven, at least beyond some doubt. At the same time, though, unless or until that proof comes in, they keep an open mind to all the different views. Okay? So like right now, I might not say I'm committed to the view that there's life in outer space because I just haven't seen enough proof yet, but I'm open-minded to that, and I'm willing to take it seriously. But the jury is out pending further confirmation in the future, right? Okay. The method of doubt, okay, by the famous philosopher Descartes. The method of doubt was a method that he proposed in order to try and discover what is totally certain, and that's what he thought we would use to found science. So the method of doubt says that you should assume that something is false if there's even any possibility that it could be doubted. He goes to far extremes with that because he says even the fact that you're, that you have the body that you think you have and you're watching this lecture at your house or whatever, maybe that's not true. Maybe your whole life is a big illusion, like a big simulation, like your computer game that someone's playing in another dimension, But anyway, that's probably something that is not true. Nonetheless, he says to have the highest level of skepticism in order to prevent false beliefs from entering your belief system. Okay? Hopefully, a gamer out there that's going to have a great, successful run with your character. Okay. So next up, collaborative learning. That's just the ability to work well with other people to find shared solutions to common problems instead of doing everything unilaterally, being standoffish, refusing to cooperate. Good critical thinkers are willing to enlist the best insights from other people that they interact with in their community, in their network. So try to be collaborative, cooperative, and work in a spirit of cooperation. That's when we get a lot of the best things done. Finally, creative problem solving. That's one more quality of a good critical thinker. So that's the ability to come up with creative solutions to complex problems. Sometimes that requires that you do that you think through a solution fast and that you improvise it. Sometimes it's all about having come up with a contingency plan in advance of a problem happening. So good critical thinkers are usually ready to solve problems either quickly or because they've already anticipated the problem. People that are not good at critical thinkers get panicked, frustrated, overwhelmed. They have to turn to others for help, which is not a bad thing in and of itself, but you'd like to have that extra independence. It's definitely to your benefit. Okay. Now, after that, there's some discussion of some of the benefits that come from being a good critical thinker. I know I talked to you guys about one benefit is that it helps you with personal self-esteem and confidence. So good critical thinkers feel more at ease because they know that they can solve problems, including the problems that they are going to have to face. Since they're good problem solvers and they're good at analysis, they feel like it's not so easy for them to be overwhelmed with panic, fear, or to be intimidated by a situation. So that goes a long way towards making people have a better mental health even, and some studies seem to confirm that. So one benefit of being a good critical thinker is developing a rational plan of life. Another one is, the first one is personal confidence and self-esteem. The second one is developing a rational plan of life. So good critical thinkers are also good at making effective plans, designating their goals, and knowing what steps have to be taken to realistically achieve those goals. So you'd like to be a good critical thinker for that reason also, because you want to be a successful person, and that requires effective planning and execution of the plans, which good critical thinkers can do. Let's see, and also it's important to being a citizen in a democracy. Why is that? Because in a democracy, we vote. Democracy is characterized by democratic elections, unlike in a monarchical system or a dictatorship or a totalitarian system. So we have a democracy, but that requires us to participate in it. And to be good voters, we have to be informed citizens. Critical thinkers are good at analyzing arguments, and they expect to hear a good argument before they're going to be willing to agree with something. So they're definitely some of the people that will cast wise votes that reflect their self-interest and the interests of their community. By having an informed electorate, we have a stronger and a healthier democracy because it's harder to pass laws or to propose ideas that a well-informed, rational, critical thinking electorate would support if it's not in their interest. Okay. Now, the three-tier model of critical thinking. 3 steps in the critical thinking process. So let's talk about that really quick. What are the 3 steps? Just the words for them. So blank, blank, and blank. What do we have on that particular item? The 3 steps or phases of the critical thinking procedure process are, and this is not to be confused with cognitive development. Good, so there's experience, interpretation, and analysis. That's right. So the first step is to have an experience and describe what it was. So the experience, the first level is just the what of the process. What happened? My partner broke up with me, something like that. What happened? I got into a traffic collision. What happened? My dog ran away, something like that. Some event, just whatever it is. And sometimes it's also something that didn't directly happen to you, but just in the world. Like Donald Trump won the election. Joe Biden won the nomination. Okay, now interpretation is when you take the next step, where you start trying to explain either to yourself or to other people, why did that happen? Take the case of Biden winning the nomination. Well, first interpretation, I think, could probably be that, my interpretation has to do with a huge swing of the black voters in the South going to Biden's side right as we had some of those key primaries earlier in the primary season. Why did Trump win? Well, some people talk about the Russian interference. That's definitely one element, but I guess also, it's the small margins that he was able to run up in those competitive battleground states. Maybe Hillary could have campaigned a little harder. But anyway, what I'm talking about are just reasoned explanations for why those political events might have happened. Now, talk about a runaway dog. I actually lost a cat a long time ago back in college. It was very sad because I had this cat for 10 years. What happened was basically I moved away from my parents' house to go to live near campus with some roommates that were my friends. And I thought, the cat loves me the most, so I'm going to try and take her with me to college. But she was so used to the other house that she was not having it. And it would have been okay, I think, but I had a roommate that was leaving the doors open all the time, even though I tried to tell him, don't do that. So anyway, cat ran away. That's what happened. Interpretation, I fully blame my roommate. That was my first instinct. This guy's a bum, can't listen, he's leaving the doors open, so man, he really messed me up. But then when you get to the third stage, which is analysis, you go back and you basically think twice about your earlier interpretation, because sometimes you owe it to yourself to take another look at your reasons and to reevaluate. That doesn't mean you're always wrong, but sometimes you reason better when you gain some distance from the events themselves. So in the case of this cat running away, my first thought was it's all Jason's fault, my old roommate. But then, I thought more about it, and it did have something to do with my own responsibility. Like I should have ensured that she couldn't have left the bedroom. I probably should have set all of her things up in there so that she could have been fully self-contained for longer before she ventured out. Anyway, so I took some of the blame after I thought more about it. That's how critical thinking works. Things happen, but you don't just want to let them happen without knowing why. You want to try and explain why they happen and even be open to further analysis based on new information or new insight that comes later. Okay? Because critical thinkers don't want to just live a life where stuff keeps happening and they have no idea why. They want to know why things happen so that in the future they can do things differently. And I guarantee you, I'm much more careful with the cats that I have now, these cute kittens that you guys have seen. They'll never escape this house, for sure. Okay, so some obstacles to critical thinking, all right? And then there's the forms of narrow-mindedness that we kind of closed with last time. So obstacles to critical thinking include these things. Avoidance, avoiding people and information that disagree with you, right? There's also anger, becoming angry at a person who provides you with a contrary opinion or belief instead of just hearing them out and listening to what they have to say. Why would you get angry at that? I mean, it's like getting mad at the messenger. If you're mad at the fact that this person disagrees with you, then you're going to be mad all the time because there's people everywhere that don't agree with everyone. You know, there's not a unanimous field of opinion out there in the world. So anger, you're going to have to carry that with you, and it's also unproductive. So that's anger. Cliche. Those are overused common sayings like one-liners that basically try to stop a critical dialogue. It is what it is, to each his own, whatever. So what? Boys will be boys. That's how the cookie crumbles. You know, and so on. Those are all examples of cliche statements. So we shouldn't just use cliches all the time to duck out of conversations. Although sometimes we've reached the limit of the conversation, we should wait until we develop it further before we try to excuse ourselves with a cliche. Denial. To simply deny alternative views without even considering their credibility. Okay. Ignorance. That is to deliberately stay uninformed about something so that you don't have to do anything about it, take any action, or form an opinion about it. Conformity. That is the situation where you basically try to blend in with the crowd or the majority, so you adopt the views of the popular group or the majority to try and fit in and not stand out. We should think for ourselves and be independent-minded, not just go along to get along, but if you agree with people, that's fine, but do so on your own judgment. Then there's struggling. Struggling is when you endlessly go back and forth over what decision or action to take, but you never ever come to any conclusion. So it's kind of like a waste of intellectual labor coming up with all these deliberations and never actually forming an opinion or taking an action at the end. I think of people who go back and forth over how they're going to vote forever and then don't even end up voting. Like, what was the point then of all that time you spent thinking? You got to come to a conclusion eventually. Okay. So then there's these types of narrow-mindedness, and I briefly talked about them at the end last time. So just one more note on those. Absolutism. Absolutism is when you cannot stand up to authority, and you always just blindly assume that they're totally correct and it can't be challenged. Okay. Egocentrism. The belief that you're better and smarter than everybody else. So if you're egotistical type, you're self-centered, egocentric, then you're going to have low level of respect for other people's views, especially when they don't agree with you. And you're also easy to manipulate if you're egocentric, because people could just appeal to your ego, flatter you, and then get you to do whatever they want. So you should have an honest sense of your own abilities, have confidence and self-esteem, but not egotistical. Ethnocentrism. That's the unjustified belief in the superiority of a person's race, group, or culture. So, like racism, like white supremacism and stuff like that. There's no at all rational or scientific basis for a person to believe in like a hierarchy among the races. And it's just, when you think about what some of these people believe or what they want, it's just crazy. I mean, there's never going to be a homogenous ethno-state where there's just one type of people that all think the same way, that all look the same. It's just not possible. We have a diverse world, and it's increasingly integrated. So people who want that, or they're living in a fantasy world totally disconnected from reality. People like that commit terrible crimes and destroy the fabric of society. So ethnocentrism is just false, irrational, silly, small-minded. Yeah, so there's a lot of things you can say, but basically the definition, the unjustified belief in the superiority of a person's race, group, or culture. Anthropocentrism, that's the belief or the view that mankind is the center of everything. And so non-human animals and nature don't matter as much, which perhaps is not totally incorrect. We are, I believe, better than the animals in the sense that we have more dignity because we're rational. But at the same time, we shouldn't totally disrespect nature. Otherwise, we're going to destroy the planet that we need to live on. So have a healthy dose of respect for non-human animals and nature. And then finally, what's rationalization? That's when you try to justify an action after the fact by giving a reason that you didn't have when you did it at first. Like if you buy something on impulse and then your parents ask you why you bought it, or somebody, and then you try and invent a reason that sounds smarter or more deliberate. Like I bought some Timberland boots that I just got on a whim, and people then was like, why do you have those? And really it was just an impulse, but I wanted to sound like I had a thought process behind it. So I was like, well, yeah, actually I'm going to, this was true though. I was like, oh, I'm taking the trip to Baltimore in the winter, and if I don't have some kind of big treads on the boots, I'm going to slip around. Because last time I went over to Iceland, I was walking around in Adidas, and so I was sliding all around the ice. Now that sounds like a really logical reason to buy these boots, right? But that was just come up on the fly later. So when you rationalize, you try and come up with reasons that you didn't have at the point of action, so as to sound more reasonable later. It's better to have the reasons up front than to simply try and, craft them afterwards in order to justify yourself. And then last of all, there's doublethink. Doublethink is to believe two opposite things at the same time. Like a person says, for example, I believe gay people should be able to marry, but at the same time, I don't want my kid to be gay and marry anybody of the same sex. Or if a person says men and women are totally equal, but really, don't you think women should be doing more household chores? So those are like two beliefs that are kind of contradictory to each other. And a lot of times people want to have it both ways. That's when they get caught up in doublethink, which is actually a word that can be traced back to the writing of George Orwell in his novel 1984. The party in the novel 1984 that controlled everything with an iron fist tried to instill doublethink within the people to keep them confused all the time. So they say stuff like hate is love, or like ignorance is strength, weird stuff like that. Okay, guys, so I got through all of our notes. When you want to think about our quiz on Tuesday, you can go back and refer to this lecture for any of the topics. The things that I could ask you about have to do with all the questions or items that we've just now mentioned. And the format is going to be like short written answer. It's not going to be multiple choice. It's going to be like a short written answer. So I might say to you, tell me what is, sorry, one more term. Don't want to leave this behind. Confirmation bias, everybody. Confirmation bias is when you only seek out information that agrees with or supports what you already believe. But anyway, like say I wanted to ask you a question, I could say, what is confirmation bias? Or explain to me the dualist phase of cognitive development. The quiz will be up and it will be delivered to you guys right around 4 o'clock, just before on Tuesday. So about 15 minutes prior. And no, there won't be a lecture on that day. On the day of Tuesday, I'm just having you guys take the quiz, and then we'll start back up with our lecture series on Thursday, where we'll start talking about Chapter 3. Okay? The quiz will be delivered to you guys through the Canvas Titanium system on Tuesday. So you get the quiz form, and it'll tell you, here's the deadline, and you have to then just send it back to me with your written answers within the window of time, which will at least be as long as the class and maybe a little longer. Okay, guys. I will send out an email to follow this that will further give you the instructions in a written way so that you definitely have them in your records, okay? So I guess that's all I have to say for you for now. Have a great weekend then, everybody. We'll be in touch. I'll be sending you guys some announcements and messages tomorrow. So let's just be all ready to go for our Tuesday quiz. And until then, yes, so you will email me for your homework results. That's right, Ryan. But I'm going to post the answer key in the morning. And then once I do that, I'll invite students to please get in touch with me for their score. I just have a few more that I have to finish scoring, but as of tomorrow afternoon, they should be all ready to go, and you can pass for your score. Okay, guys, thanks again. Have a great weekend and a good night, and I'll see you then, okay? Bye-bye.